The cabin cost me $425,000. Every penny of it came from 35 years of running into burning buildings while everyone else ran out. I spent 3.5 decades as a firefighter in Denver, working my way up from rookie to captain, and I saved every dollar I could for this moment. For the day I could finally sit on a deck in the Colorado Rockies and watch the aspens turn gold without a radio crackling on my hip or an alarm bell pulling me out of sleep. I closed on the property in early September, just as the tourists were clearing out and the summer heat was giving way to crisp mountain mornings. The cabin sat at 8,500 feet, about 20 minutes outside of Aspen, with 3 bedrooms, a stone fireplace, and a view that made my chest ache every time I looked at it. The real estate agent kept calling it a fixer-upper with potential, but I didn't need potential. I needed peace. My golden retriever, Rusty, seemed to understand that too. He was 8 years old, a retirement gift to myself 2 years earlier, and he'd spent most of his life in my small house in the suburbs. But up here, watching him bound through the pine trees and splash in the creek that ran behind the property, I knew I'd made the right choice for both of us. Some mornings I'd sit on the deck with my coffee, Rusty at my feet, and I wouldn't hear a single human sound for hours, just wind, birds, and the occasional rustle of a deer moving through the underbrush. I'd been there 3 weeks when my phone rang. I didn't recognize the number, but the area code was local to Denver. I answered it. "Robert. Hey man, it's Jake." It took me a moment to place the voice. Jake, my cousin on my mother's side. I hadn't heard from him in probably 5 years, maybe longer. The last time we'd spoken was at my mother's funeral, where he'd tried to sell me on some cryptocurrency investment opportunity during the reception. "Jake," I said, "how'd you get this number?" "Aunt Linda gave it to me." "Hey, listen, I heard about your new place up in the mountains. That's incredible, man. Really happy for you." "Thanks," I said, waiting. Jake never called just to congratulate someone. "So here's the thing," he continued, and I could hear the shift in his tone, the practiced enthusiasm of someone about to pitch something. "I'm working on this incredible business opportunity, and when I heard about your cabin, I immediately thought, this is perfect. This is fate, you know?" "What kind of opportunity?" "Luxury short-term rentals. Think about it. You're right outside Aspen, ski season's coming up, and people are paying insane money for authentic mountain experiences. I'm talking $800, maybe $1,000 a night during peak season. Ashley, my girlfriend, she's got like 30,000 Instagram followers, and she's amazing at marketing this stuff. We could turn your place into a gold mine." I watched Rusty chase a squirrel across the deck. "I'm not interested in renting it out, Jake. I just bought it to live in." Right. Totally get that. But here's the beauty of it. You've got 3 bedrooms, right? We'd only need to rent out 2 of them. You could keep the master for yourself. And you'd only have guests maybe, 60% of the time? The other 40%? You've got the whole place to yourself. Plus, you'd be making money while you sleep. I ran the numbers, and even being conservative, you're looking at $60,000 a year in gross revenue. "Jake, I appreciate the call, but no. I bought this place to retire in peace, not to run a hotel." "I hear you, man, but think about it. You just dropped over 400 grand on this place. What happens if something goes wrong? Medical emergency, property taxes go up, roof needs replacing. Having that rental income would be a safety net. And honestly, at our age, we need to think about these things." I was 62. Jake was 38. Our age? I just mean, you're retired now. Fixed income. It's smart to diversify. "I've got a pension and savings, Jake. I'm fine." Okay. Just think about it, all right? I'm going to send you some information, some photos of other properties Ashley and I have helped set up. Just take a look. No pressure. I didn't respond. After a moment, he said goodbye and hung up. I deleted the text messages when they came through 20 minutes later. I'd seen enough of Jake's opportunities over the years to know where this led. He'd had a protein shake pyramid scheme, a crypto mining operation that went bust, and last I'd heard, some kind of print-on-demand t-shirt business that never shipped any orders. The man could sell sand in a desert, but he couldn't run a business to save his life. I put it out of my mind. For the next week, I hiked with Rusty, chopped wood for the fireplace, and drove into town twice for groceries. The aspens were turning, brilliant gold against the dark green of the pines, and every evening I'd sit on the deck and watch the sun set behind the peaks. This was what I'd worked for. This silence. This stillness. Then Jake called again. "Hey, Robert, it's me again. Did you get a chance to look at those links I sent?" "I deleted them, Jake." "Oh, okay. Well, that's fine. Listen, I want to be straight with you because we're family and I respect you. This opportunity, it's time sensitive. We're heading into prime ski season, and if we're going to get your place listed and start taking bookings, we need to move now. Like, this week, I told you, I'm not interested. But did you even think about it? Did you sit down and actually run the numbers? I don't need to run numbers on something I'm not doing." His voice tightened, just slightly. "Robert, come on. You've got this beautiful property that's sitting empty most of the day while you're out hiking or whatever. That's wasted potential. That's money just evaporating. And you're telling me you don't even want to consider it?" "That's exactly what I'm telling you." "Is this about me? Are you saying no because you don't trust me to handle it professionally?" "This is about me wanting to live in my own house without strangers walking through it. They wouldn't be strangers, they'd be guests. Vetted guests. And honestly, it might be good for you to have people around. You're up there all alone. And at your age, if something happened, who would even know? Who would find you?" I felt a flash of anger, hot and immediate. "Jake, I'm done with this conversation. Don't call me about this again." Okay. I'm sorry. That came out wrong. I'm just trying to look out for you, you know? Family looking out for family. But I'll drop it. Your house, your choice. Thank you. Hey, completely different subject. Ashley and I were thinking about coming up to visit in a couple weeks. Just for a day. See the cabin, maybe grab lunch in town. Would that be cool? I should have said no. I should have heard the pivot, recognized the angle. But I was tired, and I wanted the conversation to end, so I said, "Sure, give me a call before you head up." "Perfect. Thanks, man. Talk soon." He called 3 more times over the next 10 days. Each time, he'd start with small talk. How was the weather? Had I seen any elk? Did I need anything from Denver? And then he'd slowly work his way back to the rental idea. Each pitch was slightly different. Once, he framed it as a way to share the beauty of the mountains with people who needed it. Another time, he focused on how much he and Ashley could handle all the logistics, so I wouldn't have to do anything. The last call, he brought up my late wife. "Jennifer would have loved this place," he said. "She was always so generous, always thinking about others. I bet she would have wanted you to share it." I hung up on him. Jennifer had been dead for 4 years. She'd passed from cancer, and yes, she'd been generous, but she'd also been fierce about protecting our private life. She would have told Jake exactly where to shove his business proposal. I blocked his number after that. I figured that was the end of it. It wasn't. On a Thursday in early October, I took Rusty on a longer hike than usual. We followed a trail that wound up through the national forest, past a beaver pond, and eventually looped back down to the cabin from the north side. The whole thing took about 4 hours. When we got back, tired and hungry, I saw a white Range Rover parked in my driveway. Jake was sitting on my deck. He stood up when he saw me, grinning like we'd planned this. "There he is. Hey man, I tried calling, but it kept going to voicemail. Figured we'd just head up anyway, surprise you." A woman stepped out of my cabin. She was maybe 30, blonde, wearing expensive-looking athletic wear and carrying a ring light. "You must be Robert. I'm Ashley." Oh my God, this place is even more gorgeous than the photos. I stopped at the edge of the deck. Rusty, usually friendly, stayed close to my side. "What photos?" "The ones Jake sent me. We've been looking at this place for weeks, planning out all the design updates." She gestured toward the house. "The bones are incredible. You've got amazing light in the living room, and that fireplace is going to photograph so well." I looked at Jake. "How did you get in?" "Oh, the door was unlocked. We just let ourselves in to check it out. Hope that's okay." It wasn't okay. I locked my doors, always, even out here. But I'd gone through the back door that morning, and sometimes the latch didn't catch properly if you didn't pull it completely shut. You need to leave. Whoa. Hey, just hear me out. Jake held up his hands. Ashley and I drove all the way up here because we wanted to show you, in person, how serious we are about this. We've got a whole presentation prepared. Look, I even brought printouts. He reached for a folder sitting on one of my deck chairs. I saw glossy pages, photos of other luxury rentals, what looked like a business plan. I don't care about your presentation. This conversation is over, and you're trespassing. Get off my property. Ashley's smile faltered. We're not trespassing. We're family. Jake said you were excited about this. Jake lied to you. I've told him no multiple times. Jake's expression shifted, the friendly mask cracking at the edges. Don't be dramatic, Robert. Just listen to the plan. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. No. You're being selfish. You know that? You've got this incredible property, and you're just hoarding it. Jennifer would be ashamed. I don't remember making the decision to move. I just found myself stepping forward, and Jake stepped back, stumbling over the folder he'd dropped. For a moment, we just stared at each other. Then he picked up the folder, took Ashley's arm, and walked toward the Range Rover. You're making a huge mistake, he called back. This could have been good for both of us, but you're too stubborn to see an opportunity when it's right in front of you. I didn't respond. I watched them drive away, then checked every door and window in the cabin. I was shaking, and I wasn't sure if it was from anger or adrenaline or both. That should have been the end of it. 2 weeks later, I drove into town for groceries. It was a Saturday, unusually warm for mid-October, and the hardware store was running a sale on firewood, so I stopped there too. The whole trip took about 3 hours. When I got back, a blue sedan was parked at the end of my driveway, half blocking the entrance. I parked on the road and walked up. A young couple was standing on my deck, taking photos. They were maybe 25, 30 at most, dressed like they were about to climb Everest, despite the mild weather. Can I help you? I called. They turned, surprised. Oh, hi. We're a little early, but we thought we'd check out the view while we waited. This place is amazing. Early for what? For check-in? We booked the place for the weekend. Jake said check-in was at 3, but traffic was lighter than we expected, so we got here at 2. Is that okay? I felt something cold settle in my stomach. You booked this place? Yeah, through the website. Luxury mountain retreat, right? We saw it on Instagram last week, and it looked perfect for our anniversary. There is no website. This is my private home. The woman pulled out her phone. No, look, here it is. We paid $1,800 for 2 nights. She turned the screen toward me. I saw photos of my cabin, my deck, my living room with the stone fireplace. The listing was called Authentic Alpine Luxury Retreat, and the description talked about a true Colorado mountain experience and rustic elegance. There were photos I'd never taken, angles I didn't recognize, including one shot from the loft bedroom that I never used. When did you book this? Last Tuesday. We've been texting with Jake all week about directions and check-in times. I pulled out my phone and took a photo of their phone screen. I'm sorry you drove all this way, but there's been a mistake. This property is not for rent. Jake doesn't own it. He doesn't live here, and he has no authority to rent it out. But we paid. We have a confirmation email and everything. You'll need to get a refund from Jake. This is my home, and you can't stay here. The man stepped forward. Hold on. We drove 4 hours to get here. We took time off work. You can't just kick us out. I'm not kicking you out. You were never invited in. I'm telling you that you were scammed. They left, angry and confused, and I didn't blame them. I went inside and started searching online. It took me 20 minutes to find it. A glossy, professional-looking website advertising luxury mountain retreats in Colorado. My cabin was listed as the Aspen View Lodge. There were a dozen photos, including several interior shots that I now realized had been taken when Jake and Ashley let themselves in 2 weeks ago. The booking calendar showed 8 reservations over the next 2 months. The ski season rush, all of them marked as confirmed. I called my lawyer. His name was Michael Torres, and I'd used him for the cabin purchase. I explained the situation, sent him screenshots, and waited while he looked everything over. "This is pretty straightforward," he said finally. "Your cousin committed fraud. He's advertising a property he doesn't own, accepting payment for it, and probably has no intention of refunding anyone. We need to get that website taken down immediately, and you need to file a police report." "What about the people who already paid?" "They'll have to pursue Jake for refunds." "But Robert, you need to protect yourself here. If someone shows up and forces their way in, or if they damage something thinking they have a right to be there, you could have a liability issue. We should get a restraining order against Jake and maybe consider posting no trespassing signs." "How fast can we do this?" "I'll file for an emergency order on Monday. In the meantime, document everything. Every booking, every message, every person who shows up. Take photos, keep records, and change your locks." I changed the locks that evening. I also drove down to the hardware store and bought materials for new signs. Large, bright orange, clearly stating private property, no trespassing. I posted them at the end of the driveway and on the deck. On Sunday, another couple showed up. Then 2 more on Monday. Each time, I had to explain the situation, show them proof that I owned the property, and send them away. Most were understanding, though angry at Jake. One couple threatened to sue me until I showed them my deed and title, along with the police report number. The restraining order was granted on Wednesday. Michael also sent a cease and desist letter to Jake, along with a demand that he take down the website, issue refunds to all guests, and pay me $15,000 for damages. The damages were mostly symbolic. I hadn't actually lost money, but Michael wanted to send a message. Jake's response came through his own lawyer, a letter claiming that I'd verbally agreed to the rental arrangement and was now backing out. His lawyer suggested mediation. "He's stalling," Michael said when I showed him the letter. "He's hoping you'll settle for something less than full consequences. Don't engage. Let me handle it." The website came down the next day, but the damage was done. Jake had apparently collected deposits from 12 bookings, totaling around $40,000. Some people found my phone number and called demanding refunds. One man threatened to drive up and settle this in person. I had to block 6 different numbers that week. On Friday, my Aunt Linda called. Linda was Jake's mother, my mother's younger sister. I hadn't talked to her since the funeral either. "Robert, honey, what is going on?" Jake called me crying. "He said you're trying to ruin his business." I explained the situation. All of it. The repeated calls, the unwanted visits, the fraudulent website, the people showing up at my door expecting to stay in my home. There was a long silence. Then, "Well, I'm sure he didn't mean any harm. You know how Jake is. He gets excited about projects." "Linda, he committed fraud." "Oh, that's such a strong word. He made a mistake. But suing him? Taking out a restraining order? He's family, Robert. Can't you two just work this out?" I tried to work it out. I told him no 6 different times. He did it anyway. Maybe if you'd just listened to his presentation, been a little more open-minded, this whole mess could have been avoided. You've always been stubborn. I closed my eyes. This was the part that shouldn't have surprised me, but somehow still did. "I'm hanging up now. Linda, don't you dare. I'm not finished. Jake told me how you threatened him when he came to visit, how you scared Ashley. What if he'd fallen off that deck? You could have hurt him. He trespassed on my property after I explicitly told him not to come, and I didn't threaten him. I told him to leave. He's your cousin. He's family. Family doesn't do this to each other." "Apparently they do," I said, and ended the call. I sat on the deck afterward, Rusty's head in my lap, watching the sun sink behind the mountains. The aspens had lost most of their leaves now, and there was snow forecast for the weekend. Real snow, the kind that would stick. The first snow of the season in my cabin. My cabin. Not Jake's opportunity, not a luxury mountain retreat. Mine. The legal process dragged on. Jake claimed he'd already refunded everyone, but when Michael contacted the guests, half of them said they hadn't received anything. He claimed the website was Ashley's idea, then later said it was a friend who'd set it up without his knowledge. He claimed I'd given verbal permission, then said he'd misunderstood our conversations. In the end, we didn't go to trial. Jake agreed to a settlement. He'd pay $5,000 in damages, issue written apologies to all the guests he'd scammed, and stay at least 500 feet away from my property for 5 years. The restraining order would remain in place. If he violated any terms, I could pursue the full $15,000 plus legal fees. It wasn't everything I wanted. I wanted him arrested, honestly. I wanted consequences that would stick, but Michael advised me that a trial would be expensive and time-consuming, and the settlement gave me what I needed most: peace. Jake paid the $5,000 in 3 installments over 2 months. I never cashed the checks. I framed them instead and hung them in the back bedroom, a reminder of what boundaries cost and why they mattered. The snow came in November, heavy and deep, and I spent most of December inside, reading by the fireplace, with Rusty sprawled at my feet. I didn't hear from Jake. I didn't hear from Linda. A few cousins called around Christmas, awkwardly trying to mediate, and I politely declined their invitations to talk things over. There was nothing to talk over. Jake had made his choice, and I'd made mine. In January, Ashley posted on Instagram about their breakup. I only knew because one of the former guests had sent me a screenshot, along with a note saying she'd finally gotten her refund. In the post, Ashley talked about toxic relationships and finally seeing someone's true colors. She didn't mention Jake by name, but it was obvious. The comments were brutal. I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. By February, the cabin felt less like a refuge and more like home. I'd learned which trails were best for snowshoeing, where the elk congregated in winter, which neighbors were friendly, and which preferred to be left alone. I'd joined a volunteer fire watch program, using my decades of experience to help the understaffed Forest Service. It wasn't running into burning buildings, but it was something. It was useful. In March, when the snow started to melt and the first green shoots pushed up through the mud, I built a raised garden bed on the south side of the cabin. Tomatoes, peppers, maybe some herbs. Jennifer would have liked that. She'd always wanted a garden, but our suburban lot had been mostly shade, and her cancer had taken her before we could move somewhere sunnier. I thought about her a lot that spring, about the plans we'd made, the retirement we'd imagined. She'd wanted to travel, see national parks, stay in bed and breakfast inns all over the country. I'd wanted this, a quiet place, a slower pace, a chance to just breathe. We'd compromised, agreeing to split our time between adventures and stillness. But then she was gone, and I was left with half a dream. So I built the other half myself, the best I could, in a cabin in the mountains with a dog who liked to chase squirrels. Some evenings, when the light hit the peaks just right and turned everything gold and purple, I'd sit on the deck and imagine what I'd tell Jennifer about all of this. About Jake, about Linda, about standing my ground when it would have been easier to just give in. I think she would have been proud. She would have told me I did the right thing, even when it hurt. The garden grew. Rusty got older, slower, but happier. I learned the names of birds I'd never noticed in the city. I fixed the back door latch properly, so it couldn't be opened without a key. I installed a camera above the driveway, just in case, though no one came. By the time summer rolled around again, a full year after I'd bought the place, I realized I'd stopped thinking about Jake every day, then every week. He became a story I'd tell sometimes, when the conversation turned to family drama or lessons learned the hard way. But he wasn't the defining feature of my retirement anymore. He was just a bump in the road, a detour I'd navigated and moved past. The cabin, though. The cabin remained. People ask me sometimes if I regret how I handled things, if I should have been more flexible, more willing to compromise. After all, Jake was family, and family is supposed to mean something, right? I tell them that family does mean something. It means trust. It means respect. It means honoring someone when they say no. And when those things are gone, when someone proves they value money over boundaries, opportunity over consent, then the word family is just a word. It doesn't grant immunity from consequences. It doesn't obligate forgiveness. Some doors, I've learned, should stay closed, not out of spite or cruelty, but out of self-preservation. Because the only thing worse than cutting someone out of your life is letting them back in when they've shown you exactly who they are. I bought this cabin for peace. And peace, I discovered, is worth defending. Even from family. Especially from family. The aspens are turning gold again now, marking the cycle of my second autumn here. Rusty and I still take our morning walks, though we move a little slower these days. The garden produced more tomatoes than I could eat, so I shared them with neighbors. The volunteer fire watch keeps me busy during the dry months, and when winter comes again, I'll be ready for it. Ready for the quiet, the stillness, the long nights by the fireplace. This is my home, not an investment, not an opportunity, not potential waiting to be unlocked. Just home. And that, I've come to understand, is worth more than $60,000 a year, or a cousin's approval, or a family's conditional acceptance. It's worth everything.